Okay, welcome to Aqua Right, Believing Pure Water is Life. This is our first show. We have Arlise here. She is a resident of Uniondale, Long Island, and we're going to discuss her water. But before we do that, I just want to give you a little introduction on the company. We are a water purification company. We put together reverse osmosis and distillation systems in people's homes. We've been doing it since 1988, so we've been around a long time. We probably have close to 1,000 customers on the Long Island, in the Long Island area, Nassau and Suffolk, Queens, Brooklyn, and in Manhattan. You guys can also follow along at aquarightnewyork.com. A lot of the things I'm going to be talking about this evening have to do with things that are on our website. You won't find equipment on our website. You won't find systems that connect to water, even though that's what we do, because our primary focus is to actually give you information about water and how water works and how it works with your body, how it hydrates you, how it rejuvenates you, and how you should clean it. So I just want to start off by talking about actually the water on Long Island, because that's primarily where most of my customer base is on Long Island. And I'm going to ask you a question. I mean, Arliss, basically, what do you know about Long Island water? Do you know where Long Island water comes from?
No,
No?
no, honestly, you go around, you see the big towers with your town
Mm-hmm.
name on it.
Mm-hmm.
When I was a kid, we went to the filtration system in East Meadow, I
Okay.
believe it was. It was East Meadow, and that
Okay.
was a long time ago.
Okay.
So basically, we take water for granted. You
Yeah.
turn on the tap and it comes out.
Most people do. Most people take the water for granted. They just know it comes out of the faucet,
Right,
and there it is.
right.
But basically, Long Island has a special kind of place. Now, we know in New York City, the water comes from upstate, trickles on down from, you always hear the water's coming from the upstate, right?
Upstate, right.
On Long Island, the water comes from basically underneath our feet. So there's no spring bringing water up to the island.
Right, right.
It's called a sole source aquifer. So basically, it's a giant pool that covers the whole of Long Island. And so whenever it rains, like it rained heavily the other day, all that rainwater goes through the soil and into the pool. And that's where we get our water from. So when it doesn't rain, that's when we start getting the water alerts, because there's no streams bringing water, there's no upstate bringing water. It literally is coming from underneath our feet. So the problem with that is that it's also our toilet. The water is it's our pool of water for drinking, and it's also our toilet. And the reason why I say that is because whatever we have on the soil, whatever things that we put on the soil, whatever chemicals we use in our daily lives, they go out into our sewer system, it goes into our soil, and then into our drinking water. And there's no fresh water being pumped in there from something coming from underground. It's literally coming rain through the soil, and whatever washes through the soil goes into our drinking water. So a lot of people on Long Island don't realize that when you hear people say, watch the chemicals that you put on your grass, make sure that you use things that are environmentally safe, you really understand like how important that is, because any and everything that we use, literally at some point, if you even take it to things you put in your garbage, and then they take it to the dump site in Long Beach, and they dump it, whatever it rains through the garbage and it goes down into the water system. So you got to be careful even how you dispose of things, dispose of chemicals. Basically, anything that you flush down the toilet, the only thing the municipality really does is they take that basic garbage and sewage, and they just kind of sanitize it a little bit, and then they put it right back into the soil. They don't do a complete clean. They just kind of sanitize the organics of it and put it back into the soil. So if you're using Clorox and bleach and Fabuloso and all these other things, they're not concerned about taking that out of the water They're just really concerned about the organics, the bacteria and the viruses
Right.
and things. They
Right.
try to kill that, but it goes back into our aquifer. Then when it comes out of our aquifer, then the municipality will take the water and try to clean it up as best they can. So what you gotta realize is that you gotta protect the water source on Long Island. There's a few organizations on Long Island that actually do that. They monitor, but there's no like main municipality, government agency that says, Long Island water, we're gonna protect that. Each, Rockville Center, uh, East Meadow, Bethpage, they all operate independent of each other. They drill down into the aquifer, they pump up the water, and then they try to solve whatever contaminants are in their area, and then put that into your drinking water that comes through your pipes. So what you gotta realize is a lot of these companies, like American Water, for example, one of the biggest ones on Long Island,
Yeah.
their main responsibility is to make money. That's their thing. So they do what EPA says is the minimum standard to deliver water to your home that's safe. So let me give you an example. So if you go on EPA's website and you see something about lead, because we know from Flint, Michigan, a lot of people were talking about and thinking about lead in their water. Well, we have lead in our water here on Long Island. When you look at EPA's site, it says there's a certain part per million of lead that is acceptable for drinking water. So they allow the municipality to let that amount of lead go through the pipes and into your home. But if you read further on EPA's site, it also says, as far as human consumption is concerned, there is no acceptable level of lead for human consumption. But because there's so many chemicals in our water now, there's some 200,000 chemicals in our water, they have to have some of it go through because they'll never be able to clean it all up. It's just impossible. We have pipes under the ground that are almost 100, here on Long Island, 150 to 200 years old. They have cracks in them. The municipalities and the water companies have no way of knowing where these cracks are because they're underneath roads.
They're underneath, right.
You don't know where it's cracked. The only person that can tell you there's a crack is when you run your water and you feel dirt in the bottom of your sink, and it'll say, then you'll know that somewhere leading to your house, there's a pipe underneath the street that has a crack. You can call American Water or one of the other water distributors, distribution companies that handle municipal water. You tell them you see sand, they'll come out, they'll do an analysis, they'll confirm that it is sand, and then they'll tell you, well, we're gonna try to look for what pipe, maybe it's the pipe on your block, and if they get enough complaints, then they'll come out and they'll change just that section of pipe to try to correct that problem that you're having with sand or dirt or material. So you gotta understand that, when we talk about Long Island water, it's very complex. It's something that if you look at any TV show, you get up and you watch the morning shows, or you watch News 12 or any of the local shows, you'll see a lot of cancer commercials about, advertising that, we have the best cancer treatment, Winthrop Hospital, and a lot of these hospitals, they always advertise. And the reason why they advertise so much is because our source of water has been contaminated really since World War II. Long Island was basically farmland, and a lot of it was government factories. And the Grumman complex was one of the biggest ones. Now with Grumman, they manufactured planes for most of World War II right here on Long Island. And they dumped chemicals. They didn't know any better. They didn't really even understand that we had an aquifer that was kind of locked in those days. They didn't really understand what it was. So, hey, airplane comes in, they have fuel left over, they need to clear out the tank, they dump it into the soil and just let it go. They're painting the planes with lead paint, and they take it and they dump it into the soil. Whatever was left, they need to clean it out. We need to clean the tank, we got a new spray gonna happen, they dump it into the soil. So for years and years and years and years, we've had factories dumping in on Long Island. Another big issue was dry cleaners. Now there's a heavy regulated industry now, but most dry cleaners, when you dry clean the clothes, the chemicals they use to dry clean, they were just dumping it straight into the sewer system. So you'll find that most of the toxic sites on Long Island is because of dry cleaners and what they've been dumping. Now they're regulated, so a lot of your dry cleaners and things you go to now on Long Island, they don't even do the dry cleaning anymore because they don't want to have to pay for the infrastructure to actually clean up those chemicals. They'll have one place that does dry cleaning, they take the clothes there and they bring it back and they give them back to you at your regular location. But these chemicals are actually poisoning us. Now, I know that, because we've talked, I know that you grew up, you live in Uniondale, but you grew up in Lakeview and Malvern, and I know, because I lived there, I know that, when we grew up, there were a lot of frogs, and you used to
Yep.
see frogs on the street. You remember you used to ride down the street and you'd run over them?
Run 'em
because there
over.
was so many in the street. Well, now, the toxicity in the water, frogs are very sensitive. Their skin, they go from, and they're amphibious, they go from water first, and then they grow legs, and then they hit land. They're dying before they can mature to frogs. They come as tadpoles. There's still some frogs out. I still see a few.
Not
But
many.
they used to be in the spring, there was so many, you didn't even want to walk the street
Right.
at night. You'd have to use a flashlight because you think you're going to step on one.
Right.
Well, our groundwater is so contaminated at this point that they really, the kids, like your daughter, probably never seen a frog just on the ground, just, at night, you come out, you never see them anymore. So it's really a problem where, you really gotta, like, conserve and make sure you take care of how you use water and the chemicals that you use in your house. So our main focus as the company is really just trying to tell people that, hey, listen, take care of the environment and then be a steward of that, but then once you've done all you can, when we get to your home, I'm gonna help you clean it up so that you're not cooking with this water, you're not bathing with this water. Most of my customers, like I said, we've been around since 1988. In the 80s, a lot of people weren't really even concerned about the water. They didn't really
No.
think about it. We used to have a tough time talking to people about water.
Because we had cesspools
We had
then
cesspools.
too.
Yeah,
So we kind of separated,
exactly.
right.
Most of Long Island at one point was all cesspools. Now
Mhm.
Nassau County is about still 40% cesspools. A lot of people don't realize, mostly on the North Shore.
Mhm.
So when we started in '88, Great Neck, we picked up hundreds of customers in Great Neck, Roslyn, Manhasset, all these areas, because the residents there actually knew about the cesspool contamination in the water because they lived along the water's edge and they were getting brown tide, which was and then the municipalities were telling them that, yeah, these are the cesspools leaching into
Leaching.
the soil and into the drinking water, and people would get their water tested, and then they would say, well, the municipality would say, well, you have nitrates in your water. Now, a lot of people, when they hear nitrates, they think, oh, yeah, I know it's nitrates are in sausage, nitrates are in, but really what nitrates are is fecal material. That's what it is. So if you have a sausage, right, you wrap it in an intestine, you're gonna have nitrates. Anything that has salt on it is gonna have nitrates, because salt comes from the sea. What do fish do in the sea? They do everything in the sea. So that's why when you see salt, anything that's salt cured has nitrates in it. It's just it sounds disgusting, but as human beings, as every living creature on the planet, we all are dealing with that on an ongoing basis. The closer the nitrate is to you, the more harmful it is. So if you come in contact with a mammal's nitrates, there's a more likelihood that something contaminated in there could actually make you sick. The further away you get from yourself, like a fish, so that's why you can go eat oysters, and you can eat them whole and raw, and you're eating the intestine and everything in the oyster, and unless the oyster is like dead or decomposing, there's no problem for you. And those are feeder filters. They actually clean up the water, the nitrates in the water naturally to help the water recover, but we can eat them and it doesn't have an effect on us. So what I'm saying to you is, I don't want you to be afraid of nitrates in general, but just realize that when you're dealing with our aquifer, which is a pool under our feet, if the land everything goes through the land, goes into the water, and if we have cesspools, which is just a capture of your toilet flushings, and then it breaks down into the soil and it goes into the aquifer, you need to clean that up before you use that water. Now, when I approached the municipalities about this, and I asked them, I said, what is your big concern? They said, one of our big concerns is nitrates. We have a big nitrate problem on Long Island. 75% of Suffolk County is still on cesspools. 75% they do not have sewer systems. They're on cesspools. So you're talking about municipal buildings. You're talking about, the big concern they have is nursing homes on cesspools. So what they have is, they're saying that also the problem is that they're also getting a lot of pharmaceuticals in the water. Because so many of us on Long Island are actually taking medications because our population is getting older, and that is also seeping into our water system. And they're actually tracing, they can find estrogen in the water. They're finding hormones in the water because of the pills that we take. So our thing is, we want to make sure at the point of use in your home that you clean that up. And that's primarily what we do. But I like to tell people, at least get them thinking about the water and where it comes from, and then once you have an idea of that, then you'll realize what you may or may not have to do in your own home, or what you feel comfortable with as far as your children drinking the water and that kind of thing. Now, a lot of us drink bottled water because we know that bottled water gives us a feeling of, okay, well, at least I'm not drinking the water. But then when we get home and we say, well, I'm going to make some tea tonight, we go to the tap. Or we say, oh, I'm going to cook these greens or these string beans, and we put the tap water in the string beans, and then we cook them. We use the water, our tap water, as if it's because we're cooking it or boiling it, it has no effect. But it does. It does. Because most of the chemicals that are harmful to us are called inorganic materials. Let me explain to you what that is. Organic material is stuff that we can actually digest. So like if you eat an apple, it's organic. If you any kind of food that you can eat is organic. The bleach you put in your white clothes is not organic, it's inorganic. You can't, there's nothing that's going to be harmful to your body. Sand, rocks, soil, calcium, these kind of things are inorganic, or mostly in an inorganic form. So even when you hear about people saying, well, I like my water from the tap because it has minerals in it, those minerals are inorganic. You cannot digest those minerals. And I'll tell you a little personal story about myself. I used to suffer from kidney stones when I was still drinking the tap water years ago. And I went to my nephrologist and I said, what's going on with these kidney stones? Every 6 months I'm running to Mercy Hospital with kidney stones. And he says, well, your water is hard. I said, oh, I never heard that before. What do you mean hard water? He says, well, you turn on your shower, you see like green stuff stuck to it. And on your faucet, you see like little cakey material. He says, what that is those are the minerals in the water that you're drinking, and they're getting stuck in your kidneys and they're giving you kidney stones. So, so that's, a lot of people don't realize that minerals in water is for plants. The plants take the minerals out of the water, convert it, and make it into organic calcium, organic iron. And then when we eat the plant, now we can digest it. So it's just the cycle of life. So you got to realize that a lot of these things, a lot of people don't understand, and we just try to get people to understand like what's going on with the water and how it works on their body. Because
with the kids, one of the things they always said was the fluoride in the water. So they're putting stuff in the water.
They're putting fluoride in the water. Now, fluoride actually is a inorganic chemical, but what it does is it coats your teeth.
It coats your teeth.
And supposedly it's supposed to help your decay on your teeth. Now, if you go online and you look up fluoride, and if you look up fluoride in Africa or fluoride in South America, you'll find that it's one of the biggest naturally occurring chemicals in pond and drinking water that they try to eliminate because it makes people sick and ill. So fluoride in the water on Long Island, they used to put a lot of fluoride in the water.
Yeah.
Now they just put trace amounts of fluoride. They've really cut it down because they did think that there was actually too much in the water. You still get fluoride from your toothpaste and from most toothpastes and from other sources that protect your teeth.
Because you're not drinking that.
Yeah,
You're not
yeah.
swallowing
You're not
that.
swallowing it, right? You're using it and you're spitting it out.
Right, you're coating.
But if you just put it in the drinking water, then you're consuming it because
Right.
you're drinking the water.
Right.
So, yeah, so they try to eliminate heavy amounts of fluoride in the water because of that, because it was making people sick. When the municipality tries to clean up the water, what they try to do is they try to eliminate the organics in the water, which are viruses, bacteria, things that'll make you sick. I know, the kids these days, they don't get as many stomach viruses and things as we used to get when we were growing up because they do a very good job of cleaning it up. But one of the things that they do is to clean it up, the more people on Long Island, the more chlorine they have to put in the water.
Right.
So now they put a tremendous amount of chlorine in the water to kill the bacteria, which it does sanitize the water, but chlorine is just bleach. It's the same bleach you put in your clothes to get them white. It's the same chemical. It's just bleach. They put it in an amount that supposedly is safe, and then again, you're cooking with it, you're bathing in it, you're using it on a regular basis. And and it's not just in your home. Like, it's totally unavoidable, even if you clean up your house. Every restaurant you go to, pretty much, they just use tap water. It's too expensive for them to use anything else, so they use tap water for their ice, for the water they put on the table, for the water they cook your food in. So you're getting contaminated with this all through. I don't know about your household. I mean, we still eat out a lot,
Right.
we cook
Right.
maybe half the time and eat out half the time. So these chemicals, you're being bombarded with it. So what we try to do is clean it up at the home, so at least at your house, you're cleaning out the toxins because your water is completely clean.
Right.
In some municipalities, not here in New York, but in other areas, they actually put ammonia and bleach in the water. They have to put so much bleach in the water that they have to offset it by putting ammonia in the water. So, like, these things are not supposed to be. I always knew when I grew up, my mother said, when you wash this house, do you never put ammonia and bleach in the bucket together because you'll knock your food stuff out.
You sure will.
Okay, it's the same. Ammonia and bleach was used in Auschwitz to gas the Jews in the concentration camps. They used that to knock them out. It's a very dangerous combination of chemicals, but yet and still, EPA says it's safe to put chlorine and ammonia together to sanitize the water. Now they try to regulate it and they try to keep it at a safe level, but what happens is, even when I go to Virginia, they use both. They use chlorine and they use ammonia. So every time I get in the shower, I try to take the quickest shower as I can because you're vaporizing it and then you're breathing it in.
Right.
So these are things that we try to get people to realize what's going on with their water. Now I don't know if you realize this, but 60% of your body is water. 60%. So I weigh 200 pounds. So as a 200-pound person, 120 of me is just water. 80 pounds of me is the rest. That's a lot of
Water.
volume. Now, also, I don't know if you know this, 75% of your lungs is water. 75% of your heart is water. 80% of your brain is water. So, if water is that much of who you are and what makes you up, it is very important that it stay clean, that you keep it as clean as possible when you put it into your body or you bathe in it. Okay? That's like the most important thing, because we as human beings, pretty much every fruit, every vegetable we eat, everything we eat is also made up of mostly water. So you want to keep that as clean as you possibly can. So what we're going to talk about is we touched on a few things, but what we're gonna talk about now is just, some basic, things that are going on Long Island about, toxic sites and those kind of things. On Long Island, there are Superfund sites. What a Superfund site is an area where the government, state or federal, or sometimes both, will designate an area unsafe. They have to go in and do something. People are getting sued and fined, millions and millions of dollars to clean it up. On Long Island, there are over 250 Superfund sites. So when you go on our website, and you can go on our website at Aqua Right New York, Aqua, AQUARIGHTNY.com, and you can look up some of this information. On our water news, you'll find a map of Long Island, and you'll find all the little dots on the map with all of the Superfund sites. So we could go to Uniondale, we can bring it up, and it'll tell you every Superfund site in your area. It'll tell you, as you click the information, it'll tell you what's in the water, whether it's soil contamination, ground contamination, and whether or not there is a plume. And when they say plume, that just means, how much has it spread beyond the central point where it was contaminated.
Mhm.
These things are important to know, because when we come into your home to actually put a system in, and we're one of the few companies that do this, we actually test your water for what's in it, and then we make a filter based on what's in your water and customize it to your house. There is probably slim to no companies that do that. So that's why I don't really talk about a lot of the systems on the website, because all of our systems are custom. So if you have PCEs or PBTs or whatever's in your water, we'll put a medium in that filtration system that takes that out. And then we test your water afterwards to make sure that we've caught all of it. So they're custom-made systems.
But that's something that's changeable. No?
It-
What's in my water today could possibly change
It should,
based upon
it could.
what goes in the ground.
It could.
So
If
how do
someone-
I
if
know
some-
when
if-
it changes?
if
How do
someone-
I
if
adjust?
If someone, most of the municipalities in a given area, they kind of know also what's in the water. So they take out about 85% of the known contaminants. But the difference is that they also have a minimum allowable amount that could go through. So what we're doing is,
Taking out
we're
that.
monitoring them, and then we're coming and we're taking out the difference.
Mhm.
So if they get 80% of, let's just say chlorine, just the most simple one, chlorine, then when we come in, we're gonna take out the balance, the other 20%. And we test your water to find out how much is in there. So it's a good question. I mean, I think that most of the water on Long Island, it doesn't, the chemicals that are in the water, based on where the contamination sites are, you pretty much know where they are, and they pretty much stay. Like, I know there are hot spots. West Hempstead is a hot spot for rust. There's so much rust in the water that it's clogging, like if people saying, my shower, I can't turn my shower knob. There's just so much rust in the water. That every area has a specific thing. Up, like I told you before, up in Great Neck, there's nitrates. Heavy, 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 heavy nitrates, because it's hilly. And then you got cesspools sitting in areas where it's not level, and they're just leaching into the
Leaching
water,
out.
leaching into the water, leaching into the water. Up in Roslyn, they have Freon in the water. For some reason, somewhere, some company, sometime, they don't even know who it was, there's a tremendous amount of Freon in the water. So Roslyn actually set up a system to aerate the Freon, because Freon can be turned into a gas if you bubble through the water. So our people in Roslyn, we set our system up to catch the balance of whatever doesn't get caught. So that's pretty much why, most of the houses I go into, I talk to them about the water. I show them the toxic fund sites, because we monitor this stuff, because we need to know. We don't just come in your house and say, we're just gonna put a filtration system in. It's carbon filtered, it's gonna, It'll just catch what it catches, and your water's cleaner than it was. That's what most companies do. We actually come and we design a system specifically for you, specifically for your water. But the best way to educate people about it is so that they know what's in the water. So when we come in, I have customers that actually keep a logbook. We do water testing every year as as their customers. So like you said,
Okay,
if something
that's right,
changes,
okay.
we come in, we test, and then we give them the readings, we give them a simple test, which is TDS test, and then we test for specific things that pertain to their area. So, yeah, we do that often. But
Can you have multiple issues?
you can, you can have several different things going on in your house. A lot of the counties, Nassau and Suffolk, a lot of the towns do have like a lot of crazy things that come up. Like I tell you about the Freon in
Right.
Roslyn, when we already had maybe 600 or 700 customers in that area, and when that came up, our system was already taking it out. A lot of customers called, said, "Oh, I read that there was Freon in the water." We went back and tested the water, and it wasn't in their drinking water, so they didn't have to do anything. The other residents, they told them stop drinking the water till we could figure out. They had a water shut down. Our folks were able to continue to drink their water. So we monitor these things. That's why our site is basically set up for you to keep checking, for you to find out. We send out alerts. We email and text alerts in the specific areas if we hear about anything that pops up, because our focus is on water quality. The equipment piece is just a means to an end. Our thing is we need to actually get your water to a place where you know it's safe, and you know it's safe for your children, you know it's safe when you bathe in it, and that's what we want to always have all of our customers, with safe, clean drinking water at the point of use, which really is your home. Like I said, if you go on our website and you go to where we have our listing of toxic sites, you'll be able to bring up the map. You'll be able to click the icon on each dot, and it'll tell you what's in your water. It's interactive, and I know that folks at home may not be able to see this, but you see, you can bring it up, you can bring it into the area, and then you just, each dot here is a toxic site. You see this one here, it says it's in Jericho, and then you run report, and it'll actually bring up the report. It'll tell you what company contaminated, this is Roslyn Superfund site, what the classification is, and then it'll also tell you how long it was going on. It'll tell you what was in the water. PCE was in the water. That's one of those Aaron Brockovich chemicals. And it'll tell you what they did to fix it, or if they're in the process of fixing it. And what you'll find when you're reading these reports, what's scary to me is, so we know that the water, our drinking water is one big pool. Right? We've already discussed that. So it's one big pool. So you saw those dots. It's almost the whole island is covered with them, right?
Yeah.
So they would want you to believe that if over there, 5 miles from you, there's a dot that's contaminated, because you're 5 miles on this end, that you're not getting that contamination. But you know, if you had a pool at your house, and I went on one end of the pool, and I said, "Arlise, get in the pool, swim." And then I took gasoline and I poured it on the back end of the pool where you weren't swimming. You know that eventually that gas is going to disperse throughout the water, and it's going to be on your side of the water.
Right.
So you have all these places where all these different chemicals are being dumped in the water, and it's not just Nassau and Suffolk County, because Brooklyn and Queens is also sitting on top of the aquifer.
Right.
And some of Queens actually uses that aquifer water too. All the water from New York City does not come from upstate. Some of them, and parts of Brooklyn too, also use it. My customers in Brooklyn have some of the dirtiest water you've ever seen in your life, especially down Avenue U, Williamsburg section. The water is just horrifically dirty. So, but they're also, whatever is going on in New York City, in Brooklyn and Queens, whatever runoff is happening, you got tall buildings where people are flushing all kinds of chemicals down the drain. All of that stuff is going into Long Island's drinking water. So you got to realize this is, we're talking about 3 million people in Nassau and Suffolk County, and you're talking about another 5 million people once you get to Queens and Brooklyn. So you're talking about almost 11 million people on Long Island that are doing what humans do and contaminating the water system. So that's why the problem is a lot bigger than people think, and a lot of times we hear that Long Island is the number 1 in breast cancer, and the number
Yep.
such and such in prostate cancer, and and all these other cancers. The reason is because our water system is basically landlocked. It's not coming from a stream or a river. It's under our feet. It's our drinking water and it's our toilet. There's 2 things going on there. So you can't depend on the municipality to do all the cleaning. You have to do it yourself. You have to take your knowledge and you have to figure out, what am I going to do for me and my family, and how am I going to clean my water?
Right.
So that's primarily what we do, is we come in and we customize that system, clean your water up. A lot of people don't realize that. They think that drinking the water is the primary way how you get contaminated. But, and we're gonna do this, another show next month, we're gonna talk a little bit more about this. But when you bathe, the chemicals in the water soak through your skin at a higher rate than if you ingested it. 60% of, if I had a bleaker of water here, and I put the chlorine test, and I'll tell you how much concentration of chlorine's in the water. If you stick your hand in there for 2 minutes, 60% of the chlorine, when I test it the second time, will be gone, because it'll be in your hand. 60% of the chlorine in the water, by you putting your hand, will be in your bloodstream, soaked through your skin. So it's very important that not only is what you drink, it's also what you bathe in is going to have an effect.
Mm-hmm.
All of the chemicals in the water, a lot of these chemicals like this PCE here, when you shower, you not only put it on your skin, soak it through your skin, you also inhale it. So when they were talking about Flint, Michigan, and everybody was on Flint, Michigan, there were people coming up saying, I have nodes on my lungs now from the lead in the water.
Mm-hmm.
The reason being is because the water got heated up, then vaporized, all that steam you see in the bathroom, and then you breathe it in, and then it attaches to the nodes in your lungs, and now you have a problem in your lungs. No one wants to talk about these things. The EPA, the reason why they only set a certain amount of standard is because, in truth, the money that it would take to clean your city water would be so expensive that we would not be able to afford the water that's coming into our homes. So that's why when you look at the classification of water, if you look at your water bill, it says utility water. There's utility water, which is for 90% non-consumption. And then there's drinking water. You're not paying for drinking water. You're paying for utility water. Because most of the water they're making is not for consumption. Most of the water that comes from American Water, that comes through your pipes, going to businesses and things, is not used for drinking or cooking. It's used for watering plants, flushing toilets. You flush probably hundreds of gallons of water down, and then the time you cook, you put a half a gallon in your string beans and you cook them. So most of the water is used for non-consumption, so they take it from that point of view that you can have a certain amount of chemical in there of this, a certain amount of chemical of that, because it's not being ingested. It's not used for consumption. But what they don't tell you is that when you bathe in the water, you actually absorb it through your skin. So like my parents like to take baths. They're old school. They're bath people. So 15 years ago, I got them the water system so that they can bathe all they want. They can soak in that water because there's nothing in the water. It's just water. Whatever, unless with the soap that you put in, you're going to absorb that in there. But other than that, there's nothing in the water. So you just got to realize, you got to really think about water. You got to think about the total picture and how it's getting into your body. And you definitely want to make sure that you clean it at the point of use, and that's primarily what we do as a company. We clean it at the point of use. So what I want to do is, I want to give you an example of a little water test if you bought some of your water from home and I wanna test it, let me explain to you what the test is. This is a simple test. This is not gonna tell you what's in the water. This is gonna tell you how much dirt, let's just call it dirt. Dirt could be chemicals, dirt could be anything. How much dissolved solids are in the water. Now, perfectly clean water has no dissolved solids in it. It has nothing in it. It's just H2O. Now, the more contaminant in the water that's dissolved in there, the higher the number. Okay? So it's called total dissolved solids. It's a very simple, quick test that we use a meter for, and it actually gives you a number. Now, the numbers are not really going to mean anything to you. They mean more to me because this is what I do, but I try to keep everything to a point where it's nice and simple so that you don't have to think too much. So I'm going to go show you this little simple test on how we can test it. Okay, so first thing we'll do is get your number on your water. And let me show you what we have. I have, this is just from CVS, distilled water. Now, distilled water is water that's made from steam. This is the same process that the clouds use. They turn, they steam up, and then they condense, and then the water comes down. That's nature's distillation. But this is man-made distilled water. It's just boiled water. The steam boils off, goes into a coil, cools back down, turns back into a liquid, and goes back in here. Because the steam is pure water. So what this is pure water. So I just want to pour a little bit of this in the glass, and we'll just put that in there.
So the whole thing that we've been told all along, oh, just boil your water. Just boil your water.
Well,
Like you said, oh,
well,
you're gonna
let me-
just
let me-
boil
let
it.
me
When you
explain.
boil it, it boils everything off.
let me explain that to
That's
you.
not true.
That's not really true. Well, this is what happens when you boil contaminated water. So most of our water coming through our tap has all this other stuff in it that we've been discussing, right?
Right.
So when you boil it, you put it in a pot and you boil it, the steam coming off is pure water. What's left in the pot is concentrated organic and inorganic material, mostly inorganic. The organic material will die because most of it is viruses, bacteria. They're alive, they'll die. But the inorganic material will concentrate in the pot. I'll give you an example, and we'll
That's
probably
why the bottom of your pot rots.
exactly
Your
because
tea kettle gets
right,
all that
it
gunk on the
rots
bottom.
because
Right.
it's the contaminants in the water that are eating up the pot. It's
Right.
just like what happened in Flint, Michigan when they changed the water source. The pH of the water became too low, too acidic, and then when it ran through the pipe, it ate up the pipe, and then all the contaminants that were laying in those pipes went into the water, and that's how the people got contaminated. So water is the solvent of our whole existence. Anytime the doctor tells you to take medication, he says take it with 8 ounces of water, because the medicine is dissolved in the water. The way it's going to get into your cell is going to dissolve in the water, and the water is going to take it through the cellular membrane into your cell. So any bad chemical in there is in the water. When you take the water in, it's going to take all the bad chemicals that are in that water and put it into your cells. It's just what it does. Our system doesn't know anything. It says it's in the water, it's coming in.
Right.
It's what it is. So what we're going to test now is dissolved solids, perfectly clean water, has no dissolved solids. So what this is a TDS meter, and as you can see, they won't be able to see it on the screen. See, it says
Right.
000, right? So what we do is we just put it in the water, messing around, and it still says what?
0.
000, right? There's nothing. That
There's
bottom
nothing.
number is actually the temperature of the water. So there's nothing in
sorry.
there. So let's take one. I don't know. You have it labeled here. Which one is basement?
Right.
Okay.
Because I have lower
Okay.
than upper.
Okay. So let's take this water sample, and this is from Uniondale.
Uniondale.
Okay, this is Uniondale. Okay, she just went and tested different areas in her house. So we'll take this one and we'll put it in the water.
Do I really want to know?
Okay. Okay, what do you see there?
6.4.
64?
0064.
64. So that means you have 64 parts per million of dissolved solids in your water. Now, both these waters look the same
Per million?
per million.
Okay.
Yeah, so 64 is about where you're at. Okay, so that number just means that There could be 5 chemicals in there at a certain concentration, or it could be 10,000 chemicals in certain. This is not going to tell you that. This is just going to tell you that that water is not pure and there's junk in that water. Okay, so that's what this meter is about, right? Now this water is distilled water that's perfectly clear. So what I usually try to do is I just try to show people that, just try to give them a demonstration. So if I take this water here in my hand, right, and I rub it on the bottom of my shoe. Now I don't know where this shoe has been today. Let's just, wherever the shoe has been, let's just get it in there, right? Now that was our distilled water. So now our distilled
Right.
water has some dissolved solids in it.
Okay.
So we cut it off, cut it back on, clear the meter, 0, 0 again, right? Now let's put it in there. What does the meter say now?
20.
20. 20. So now the numbers have meaning to you. Okay, so if the perfectly clean water is 20, after I rubbed the bottom of my shoe a couple of times with a wet hand and rubbed it off in the water, and what's coming out of your tap is 64. 3 times more dirty. Which one do you want to drink? The bottom of my shoe or the water coming out your tap? Right?
Right, right.
And the reason why we run that is just to show people, because I see it every day. When you have a water filtration system, the one that goes on your water main, it cleans itself automatically. All the systems I sell, they clean themselves. They actually have a regeneration system, and they run through, they regenerate themselves, and they clean the carbon filter that's in them. But on the drinking water systems that go with it, they use carbon filters, and once a year I come in and I change the carbon filters. I take it off and I put a new one in. They last about a year. When I go into most houses on Long Island, the junk in the water is so thick that the customers usually scream. Because I show it to them. I said, well, I just want to show you your system's working. I test the water. I put the TDS meter in there. It's usually reverse osmosis water will say 2 to 3. The number will be 2 or 3. And that's just really just the carbon coming out from the filter. That's why it has a number, because that meter is going to see anything extra in that water is going to count it. So a little carbon comes out, it shows up on the meter. So I show them and they go, oh, man, that's really good. This water will make a filter so black and so disgusting and so grimy, it'd be like mud coming off of it after about 6 months. It is the craziest thing. Most people don't realize that they're taking all of that stuff and they're putting it into their bodies, and just like I told you how my kidneys used to always get kidney stones, that's why I was getting so many kidney stones, because your kidney can't even filter that much trash because it's what's in our water. So you really want to make sure, and this is really just a simple test, you really just want to make sure that you clean your water. Now, I want to do, did you bring you had, what was it, Polish,
Nestle.
Nestle's or Polish?
That's in this
brand?
bottle.
Nestle's in this bottle? Okay, so what we're gonna do is, we're gonna get rid of this. We're gonna get rid of this, Nestle's. And I'm gonna clean the glass with the clean water, the distilled, so we can freshen up the cup, right? So we know now that that's been rinsed with 0, 0, 0. Now, which one is it now? This is Nestle's?
That's Nestle's.
Okay, this is Nestle's. So let's go with Nestle's here. So let's test Nestle's. So if we actually, let me clear it out. Okay, it says 0, 0, right?
Right.
Okay, so let's go in here. Now, this is Nestle's. What does it say?
That thing is saying 54.
54 for Nestle's. Let me tell you why 54, if it says 54 on Nestle's. Everybody wants to drink spring water. Spring water is unregulated water. The only thing they have to have is a spring that comes up out the ground. Now I'm telling you, most of the groundwater is contaminated in America. I don't care where you go. There's a factory, a mine, or something that's gone on somewhere that's leaching into that water. So because it's spring water, the only thing they have to have is a naturally occurring spring, and they put it in a bottle and they sell it to you. If you go online and look up, there's a little thing on YouTube called Tapped. Go watch it, and then you'll get an idea of what I'm talking about. Unregulated water. If you want to drink clean water out of a bottle, you drink purified water. That's the water that they run through either a distiller or they run through reverse osmosis, and they've taken all the contaminants out of the water and they just put water in the bottle. That'd be like Aquafina or one of those types of waters.
Mm-hmm.
All of the major soda companies, and I don't want to tell you soda's good for you, but they do clean the water for their own benefit. They want the Coca-Cola or the Pepsi or the Sprite to taste exactly the same no matter where they bottle it. They bottle in South Carolina, they bottle in New York, they bottle in Ohio. They want it to taste the same. So they have to purify that water first and then add their sweeteners and their stuff and their formula, and that's why the stuff always tastes the same. Starbucks does the same thing. The reason why you go to a Starbucks and you're like, oh my God, it's always the same. I go to the airport, I go to California, it's the same. Is because Starbucks only uses reverse osmosis water. Coffee is 99% water. Mm-hmm. So if you have a coffee, the only way you can change the taste of it is if you use the tap water in these different places. It's going to make the taste of the coffee taste different. Right. So they said, no way, we can't do that. Our cappuccino, Fappalachi got to taste the same. So they clean the water. So you always want to drink when you're out. You buy a 6-pack of that water. Each bottle you take out and test will have a different number because they were all sourced at different times. And maybe one came out of the ground at night, maybe one came out of the ground last year, and they bottle it up. You don't know how long it's been sitting. They all have a different number. Purified water will always have the same number, 1, 2, or 0. They'll like to distill. Mm-hmm. They'll have no. So you always want to make sure that you're drinking purified water. But if you want to really do it right, you just do purified water in your home, reverse osmosis system or a distillation system in your home. You have a separate faucet. You push it down. You do all your cooking, all your coffee, everything you do with water, use that spigot, and that water is perfectly clean. That's what you do. And then if you go a step further, you get a carbon filtration system on your water main. And now all your showering and everything you do with your water is perfectly clean. So that's really where you want to go and want to make sure that you're taking care of your family. So now I think you have a little bit of an idea of, even though those numbers don't really mean anything to you, you just have an idea. I mean, I go into some people's homes and I test their water on Long Island and it's at 240 is the number. 305 is the number. Your water is not as dirty as most people's water. Up in Great Neck, you pretty close to 175, 180 on the regular. You go down to Roslyn, maybe like 120, 110. You go to certain places in West Hempstead because they have a lot of rust in their water. You get in the 200s there too. So different places on Long Island. And like I said, what we do is we come in, we test your water, and then we build you a customized system specifically for the water you have. The main objective is, and that's why you don't see any equipment on my site, the main objective is clean water. It doesn't really matter what doohickey gets you there, as long as it's clean. So that's why we want you to know like how it is and how it works. I don't know if you have any questions about water that we haven't answered today. Do you have anything that you want to talk about with water that you could think of?
Really, no. We got them as we went along.
You pretty much got everything that you want to.
I kind of get it.
Okay. Well, I really
basically the water on Long Island is like ew.
Yeah, but don't be afraid of it. Don't be afraid of it. The main thing, and I know I say some things that can be a little scary. There's no way you're gonna avoid getting contaminated water in your body. Unless you and I have a few customers that are kind of like this. They never leave home. They only drink
Without
the
their
water that
bottle.
comes out of our systems. They only drink water at home. They bring the water everywhere they go. Most of us can't live like that. I like to go on vacation. I like to go to different places.
You don't have a portable system?
Yeah, you do, but you're gonna get that through TSA, and what is this? What are you carrying? You don't. It gets to be a little bit too much. So don't get too crazy with it. Just understand that if you take care of the house, you take care of the home, the primary place where you consume water and bathe, if you clean that water up, that will detox you from all the other things that are going on in your life that are causing you to get contaminated. And if you can keep it at a nice low level, then you'll be in a place where you can survive and not be paranoid about everything. I'll give you another little quick story. I have one client, she has Shar-Pays. And I always wondered why she always had these Shar-Pays. And she says, oh, well, I have Shar-Pays because I get paid to raise them for the New York Kennel Club. And there's a lady who, she breeds them, and then she pays me to keep the Shar-Pays. And I said, oh, okay, that's great. And she says, well, that's the reason why I have the water system, reverse osmosis water system, is because she requires me to have it. And I said, well, why do you have to have it? She says, well, Shar-Pays, if they drink Long Island water, they all get kidney cancer.
Wow.
So she says, the only way I could get paid to keep her dog, I have to have a reverse osmosis water system so I can give the dog only reverse osmosis water. So it's like the canary in the cave. They used to take the canary in the mine, and if the canary died, the air was bad. So when we look at these things like that, if it's bad for the dog, tap water is bad for us. So just keep that in mind. Drink clean water. Go on our site. Make sure you check aquarightnewyork.ny.com. Go on our site, read the articles, and I think if you do that, you'll be able to at least get an idea of what's going on with your water. And if at any time you need help in your own home, you want us to come out and take a look and test your water, we'd be glad to come by and do that. So,
And I'm going to go buy a Shar-Pei.
Yeah.
Shar-Pei,
get your canary, right?
Shar-Pei, Camaros, right?
But you'll have a lot of bills if you use that tap water, so you don't want to do that. So just in closing, I really appreciate you coming on the show. Next month we'll do it again, and we would love to have maybe you come back, or maybe we'll do, if you're interested in getting a water system, we'll put one in, and then we'll show people how
The
it
difference.
works, and we'll go over your water tests specifically at your home for the specific chemicals that you have in your home. So that's about it for right now. I really appreciate everyone coming and enjoying the show, and next month we're going to talk about washing and bathing in the water. We're going to get in more detail about how that stuff soaks through your skin.
Okay.
So thank you very much, and we'll catch you next time.
Okay.